In Balkan Baroque, Marina Abramovic sits on a mound of phallic-looking cow bones for 6 hours, every day, for 6 days. She is wearing a white dress so the viewer can see how the blood starts to stain her skin and her white dress. A bit like when women are on their period and the blood starts to stain their bed sheets or underwear. Even the time frame of the bleeding in a menstrual cycle is similar to the duration of this piece. Throughout history and cultures, menstruation has been a subject of taboo, the very idea of menstrual bleeding being disgusting and dirty. It is something women are expected to cover up and hide, to not upset those around her. Menstrual shame is reinforced by degrading comments as, must be her time of the month, or, oh, I bet she's on her period, invalidating women's emotions and opinions. A bleeding woman is seen as shameful and abnormal by the patriarchal society, something which Abramovich is trying to challenge.
There's something extremely abject about what Abramovich is doing here. You have to imagine not only the sight of bones, worms, and maggots, but also the abhorrent stench of rotting flesh and blood after close to a week in a heated room. Julia Kristeva describes the abject as something which disturbs identity, system, and order, and does not respect borders, positions, and rules. It is the physical and violent horror we experience when faced with something which threatens to break down those borders that we have drawn up for ourselves to distinguish the self from the other.
Our physical revulsion to seeing a human corpse is explained by how the corpse threatens the border which we have drawn up for ourselves between life and death. Here is something that was alive, but now isn't, but physically still exists, just not in the state in which it was before. Our physical reaction from vomiting to simply averting our eyes is our body not wanting to associate with the corpse, re-establishing our position as living. Blood, vomit, and urine, other bodily fluids also cause objection, as it breaks down these parameters by which we measure what is us and what is other. When blood is circulating within our bodies, we identify it as part of ourself. However, once we bleed and the blood is no longer in our arteries, it detaches from us and becomes other, but it is still our blood. We need to physically remove ourselves to detach from that part of us that is now outside of ourselves. The bones surrounding Abramovich cause the objection to the corpse. The blood causes the objection to the body fluids. However, the symbolisms of the combined imagery, that of a blood-stained woman cleaning bloody, phallic-looking bones, highlights the objection towards the female body.
In The Monstrous Feminine, Barbara Creed dives into how women are shown as horrific within horror films to understand society's objection towards the feminine. Creed draws on Kristeva's previous work on objection, and especially on the distortion between the relationship between the mother and child.
This relationship is one marked by conflict, as the child struggles to break free, whilst the mother is reluctant to release it. The maternal body then becomes a site for conflicting desires. In the child's efforts to break away, the mother becomes abject. One of the female archetypes Creed describes is the woman as the castrator and the castrated. She references Jacques Lacan's reimagining of Sigmund Freud's theory of castration anxiety, in which the boy begins to see his mother in a sexual manner, begins to see the father as a rival, but is deterred by the father's threat to castrate, and finds a woman of his own to inherit his father's power. His mother's body still inspires castration anxiety, even though she is not the castrator.
Lacan explains that it is the man's body that is seen as whole, the norm, and the standard, whilst the female body is measured by its lack of penis and is therefore missing, incomplete, and castrated. It symbolises them as less than male, but again invokes this fear of castration, especially when bleeding. Creed explains that this theory explains the reasoning for women's roles as the victim or as the damsel in horror.
Abramovic is the female without penis. Her castrated body is representing the incomplete and damaged. She is the victim of the patriarchy that has caused her to feel shameful about her own body. She represents the menstruating female in the first abject moment of blood being shown. She harnesses abjection and the shame surrounding the bleeding female to start a conversation.
As a counterexample to the castrated female, Creed presents the character of women as castrator, which is symbolically referenced around the world in legend and myth, personified in the vagina dentata, the toothed vagina, which would castrate men, biting off the penises during intercourse. It clearly shows the primordial male fear of castration, female genitalia, and the female body.
It projects the notion of women being that which lures in, drawing on male sexual desire to subsequently seize and break. The vagina becomes a site for objection, caught between desire and fear. The imagery of the castrating vagina is not only conjured by the male phallus disappearing within the vagina during intercourse, but especially conjured by intercourse during menstrual bleeding as the penis re-emerges covered in blood. Abramovic is nursing the castrated penises by tenderly cleaning them. In that moment, she is in control of the phalluses that she has collected. By tenderly caring for the phallic stumps, she is reversing the hysterical discourse around castration and menstruation. Even though she draws out the castration anxiety, it is not clear whether her role in this scenario was the castrator herself. Her cleaning signifies an act of care rather than erasure, as she shows us the blood on herself. She takes up the role of the victim of patriarchy as castrated, the monstrous as the castrator, and the nurse as the abject mother.